Recorded live right here in Little Rock, Arkansas. It's time again for Larry's Rants, Raves, and Reviews. And now here's Larry.
Well, folks, all I can tell you is if you missed part one with Kathy Swanson on this Taekwondo, you need to go back and listen to it because it is a great show. We talked a lot about her accomplishments and what all she did. And, you know, we've got a world champion here. Right. And so we talked a lot about that. We kind of tricked her into that. But this episode, what we promised you at the end of last episode is we want to talk about Taekwondo and how you might want to get in it and why, your children or your grandchildren, because I kind of ended the show last week with the fact that you may have a grandchild or a child that kind of is that square peg that's kind of getting pounded into a round hole, just not fitting in. Maybe at school or at church or in the children's church or something. They just kind of stand off to the side and they're looking for something they can really belong to that really sets them apart. And I've got to tell you that karate, taekwondo, different things, this could be the niche. I know my grandson, James, has gotten into karate and he's doing fabulous. In fact, I'm going down next weekend for him to test for his next level belt. And he's doing nunchucks and he's doing all this stuff. Everything that makes grandma close her eyes and almost cry. You know, Papa's going, yeah, yeah, you know. I'm the typical Papa, rah, you know. And grandma's over there going, he's going to kill himself. He's going to kill himself. I said, just don't get close and he'll be okay. But he has really found his niche and just doing a fabulous job. And Kathy, you've talked to him before and talked to him about having great form and different things. But let's talk to our listeners about Taekwondo and what it can really do for people. And, you know, just tell them, you know, why they might want to get involved in it. I don't know that how long have you been involved in it?
I joined Master Hong's Olympic Taekwondo upon its opening, which was around, I was thinking about that. I think it was September of 2018.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
As a white belt.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
As a white belt. In fact, I actually kind of had to try out with him, meaning not try out, but I'm a little older, folks. And I think there was an interest as to whether I would be able to keep up with the demand of the class. Yeah. And so he gave me about a 20-minute little session of what had me do a few things. And I was able to execute them. Yeah. Probably not perfectly, I'm sure. But anyway, that's cool. Kind of how I got started with it.
So you've only been in it 7 or 8 years then?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well, and then COVID took care of probably 2 of that, which was really trying. But we practiced online. Mm-hmm. So you never stop. You don't. It's not a sport you stop.
Okay, so let's look at it from this angle. What can this do for people? Or you might want to take a look at it from this angle and say, okay, guys, this is what Taekwondo has done for me. Okay, so help us out. Why would you want to get involved in this, and what has it done for you, or what could it do for other people?
Well, I want to start with the tenets of Taekwondo because I think they say it better than my words could.
Okay.
So that would be confidence.
Confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's always important, is to build your confidence. Integrity. Having a mindset of thinking in a manner that, and my actions are such that I am always mindful of my integrity. Perseverance. So once I start something, I may not be really good at it, but as long as I show up and continue and persevere, then things are going to happen.
Sure.
So the next one is self-confidence. That's really key. I mean, even at my age, I'm always looking for a little bit more self-confidence in myself, whether it's in my profession or my Taekwondo or even visiting with you gentlemen. Mm-hmm. It's, and your audience. it's always nice to have and feel self-confident in what you do and believe in. And then the last one, which I think is really the key, is an indomitable spirit, which I just think that's just the basis of Taekwondo, because you have to have some real dynamic and interest in all those tenets we talked about. But I think it wraps itself up and around just that indomitable spirit of, regardless of what I may have or not have, I am interested in doing something that's going to give me a little bit better about, or have myself feel better about me, regardless of what other people think. And I think Taekwondo helps to develop that in all ages, particularly in the younger classes. That sometimes I help out and assist in the training. And I've seen how children that come to class that might be, kind of hanging around and things like that. And, when attention is delivered by the master, hands at the side, there's no fidgeting. And, we have to go over and correct and say, no, hands by the side, look forward. And it's amazing to see the transformation in kids that were there a month ago that were looking around and pulling their T-shirts and what have you. And now they're listening, they're paying attention, they're participating, they're learning a new skill set, whether it's that self-confidence we talked about, or courtesy to others, or respect to others.
Yeah, I was going to say it could teach them respect even for their teachers and stuff like that. Once they go through learning what respect is, and you're going through that kind of training for your, leader, then it could flow over into your school.
I think that was well said. And, one of the things that we've talked about is the respect of our master. And whatever our masters say, it's always, yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir. Even, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so there's a sense that you learn that whatever the instructor is giving you is what your task at hand. Yes, sir. So, and if you don't, if there's not that response, the master will often say, what was that? Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So
I do think it's a valuable sport, not just from the athletic standpoint of it, but I think it's even more significant on an individual in your personality and your in just your just the characteristics that one can build, like we talked about. I just think it's just a fabulous opportunity to build all those.
I've seen a lot of children that the way that they carry themselves, the way they act, the way they function in life, it really takes on a different meaning. And I've seen this even around James's karate classes. And I don't know if Randy, if you even know this, but we are sent home with a page, with a form. And do you know that there's a jillion boxes on there? Did they clean their room? Did they pick up after themselves? Did they do this? Did they do that? And these have to be brought back and signed by the parent or the guardian and turned into the master.
Oh, my.
And in front of the class, they will whip that page out and like, whoa, what did you do?
Yeah.
Why did you not do this? And there is not public humiliation, but public correction of, I expect better out of you. Because if you're going to be in my class, you're going to be a champion. It's kind of like I tell people, you're a customer around Bobby's, and I tell everybody, not everybody can work at Bobby's because we only work champions.
I agree. They're lovely. They greet you. They're hardworking. They're hospitable. You have a great team.
Yeah, I think we have the greatest staff in the world is what I normally say.
I agree.
And I brag about them because they are champions. And I have this thing in life that in life I assign people a number. You normally have a number right above your head. Anytime I'm talking to you, it's a 1 through 10, okay? And honestly, my champions I try to never hire anyone less than a 7 because I have 8, 9s, and 10s, and if you're a 7 or an 8, but I can tell that you're not comfortable. You used a word last show. Probably I would use the word discernment. Okay, if I can discern that you're not coachable, even though you're a 7 or an 8, if I can't turn a 7 into an 8 or a 9 or an 8 into a 9 or a 10, I don't need to bring them on my team. Because if they're not coachable, my job to be there is not to just be a boss for you to get your paycheck from. My job is to help you perfect your life and your lifestyle to where you're an 8 now, but I want to make you a 9. I want to make my 9s a 10. And 10s, my 10s, Izzy, my kitchen manager, she comes to me and goes, Mr. Larry, what am I doing wrong? And I'm like, Izzy, you just don't do things wrong, Oh, no, Mr. Larry, I'm not that good. You tell me what I'm doing wrong. And honestly, it builds that confidence. It builds that perseverance, that self-confidence that you're talking about. And so I really want to push hard on if you're listening to this show and in hearing us, please hear our heart. We want you. Take a look at your children or your grandchildren, and if there is some lacking areas in their life, this could be an answer to help focus them and build that confidence. Because, Randy, I think you'll agree with me. You've gone through enough John Maxwell, things that while we put a lot of stock in talent, there also is something about attitude, that attitude and your confidence.
Right.
You could have a lesser talent and more confidence and better attitude and outperform someone that has better talent.
Sure. I was going to tell you, a friend of mine has this was years ago, but they adopted a little boy from Romania. And he was, challenged with going through school and learning the English and everything else with all the other stuff that was going on. And he got picked on quite a bit, and a lot of them were by bullies and stuff like that. And this is years ago. It may not be that big a problem now, but I don't know. But this was several years ago. And so the parent, he's a good friend of mine, still a good friend of mine. He took his child to a karate class and signed him up. He said he started learning self-discipline and different things like this that helped him in school. And also he was learning, of course, all the moves and protections and all that stuff. Well, it wasn't about a couple of months later that here comes the bully. And this was during school. And he let him know. And all of a sudden, it came back, and he had a bloody nose or a bloody lip or something like that. And then the parent gets called in. And they said, your son he can't do that. He says, well, he was being bullied, And he says, yeah, but still, you can't do that. And the parent said, no, he has my blessing. He said he's going to protect himself. And so he actually got to use what he learned as part of the self-defense that he got to use as a child. I don't know if that happens a lot, but it was in the bullying realm. He took care of them. So he learned that in the karate class. So
I remember a young guy, his name was Doug, black belt, growing up with in church and everything. He would beg, he would plead, he'd practically run from you because he knew, I can beat you up. I can hurt you. I don't want to. And I don't know that I see anybody with kind of a thug mentality getting into martial arts of any kind that says, I just want to learn this so I can go around and hurt anybody.
Right.
It's kind of like us gun people. We don't carry a gun because we want to shoot people.
Exactly.
We just want to carry a gun so that we can protect our lives and others around us. And so while we all can agree on that or find common ground on it, I think that the mindset of these people are really, I want to do this for self-defense. And like you alluded to it in the first show, do it for the sport. But while you're learning this as the sport, you're building all of these, confidence. Who doesn't need more confidence? Integrity, dear God, if we had more integrity in the United States, think of what we could be, what we could do, what we could accomplish. Perseverance, oh my Lord, you take a look at some of this young generation coming up, they want to sit around and suck their thumb because mommy and daddy, they've all gotten participation trophies. Screw participation trophies. You're either a black belt, a camo belt, a red belt, or white belt, or yellow belt. You are what you are, but you can change that.
That's right.
You can take the responsibility and make the change. And that's something that I always preach to my children is before you blame anyone, you take self-inspection.
Yes.
And you figure out, are you the one really to blame? Are you the one that's saying stupid things that are making people pick on you or do things? And if you are, do a self-evaluation. And if you are, make the change. And I think these are things that, obviously Taekwondo kind of preaches and proclaims and does this. And then you've alluded to respect multiple times. I mean, my goodness, respect. I think it not only is respect for the leaders, for the master, whatever you call them, but also respect for one another.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was going to, and I'm glad you brought that up, Larry, because I feel like that's, if not as important as the respect that we show our master, sub-NM, or our master instructors, but it's what we show each other. Before we ever take the mat, we bow. When we get off the mat, we bow, because that is our place of, we leave everything else behind and we bring with us our mindset of we are fully respecting those instructors and our fellow practitioners, because we could hurt one another. I mean, we are standing up against each other as an opponent sparring. It's no contact sparring. There is some contact sparring. But, there's an element of self-control where if I throw this kick, I have to be respectful of my partner. So it's not just that I carry this weight of power that I have because I know some skills. It's really more about how I'm able to control that power and manage that power in a level of respect to my other practitioners in class. And then to your point, my sub-NM also, as we bow to each other and always and get on and off the mat, we bow when we enter the dojo, we bow when we get off of it. But one of the things that he does I'm in an adult class, but in the lower, say, color belt classes, which are maybe younger students age-wise, he will have them turn and bow to the parent, guardian, person who brought them, whomever is watching in the class, and he will say, turn, show your respect to your parents or your family or whoever is here for you, bow and kanye. So there's this bow and kanye. So it's not just what we do in the dojo, it's what we take from the dojo and meld it into our ordinary lives.
Right. Yeah. And I can see through James what he learns in those classes and things, how it is infiltrating, through his life and how it's making some changes. I really do. There were two things that popped into my head, okay, and you can wade through there because it's fairly shallow. But
say that again.
Well, I know I only
say it one more time.
I only self-confess once, and that's it. Push rewind and go back and listen. But maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe you have a child that is showing some temperament issues, or a grandchild that is showing some temperament issues. And people think, oh, dear God, I couldn't get my child into one of these classes because they have such a temper. They'd lose their temper and hurt someone. I kind of think it could be just opposite of if you get your child in there, they can learn how to funnel that and control that temperature, right or wrong.
Agree. Totally agree. And I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've seen many of the young students that come in and appear to have, I don't want to be judgmental, but have a kind of like an air and attitude, like, I know what I'm doing. I can get over here and beat you up or whatever. Well, that won't last.
Yeah.
Because first of all, the master recognizes that. And if anything is out of line, there is an immediate correction. And there's a consequence, to your point, when you said there's an understanding of inner reflection. So there is a high standard in this sport, not only for each other, but for yourself. Because if you're not in control of yourself, then you cannot be in control with others. So it starts with learning that control for yourself.
That's cool. The other thing that popped into my head was I noticed when I go to the karate classes, because when we go down, James, I think, has 2 karate classes a week. And I go on, when we go down Saturday, we'll go and then we'll go to lunch right after. Okay, we'll take him home, he'll get a shower, and then we'll go to lunch. But I have noticed, Randy, when we go to class, I have seen multiple times a dad and a child with a white belt. Then they step up to a yellow belt. They are learning at the same time. And I thought, how cool is that? Because you expect when they run out there on the mat and get in place, and then all of a sudden this grown man, and I'm like, well, why is he in this class? Well, then I figured it out. It's a parent or a grandparent. So see, you and Luke.
I was going to say, well, you're already there.
I don't
you're already
live
halfway there.
I don't live there.
Yeah, but you could do your thing here.
No,
and then
it's the thing of all together.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, see there, it's all set.
Come on,
it's all set.
I'm calling your daughter, and I'm going to tell her Randy wants to sign back up for classes, and he's going to start with Luke.
I want her to tell us how somebody can get involved. How can that happen?
Well, I appreciate your asking. So I am from Master Hong's Olympic Taekwondo, which means that he does practice the Olympic forms, so that if you would qualify for the Olympics, you would be prepared. So he knows, cool. It is very cool. He's also, as we've talked, kukkiwon from kukkiwon. So he comes with full credentials. He is 1 stripe away from being the highest you can be, which is, I think, a 9th degree in this system. And he's very humble. He doesn't really, flaunt his rank, which I think that blends to me. Maybe that's where I get that from. But it's real simple. I think because it is an interesting and unusual sport. You can come to the dojon, and they'll give you, for a minimal fee, like $49. I don't know what it is now, because it was a little while ago when I first joined. But you can have like 4 free classes. So you can get the feel and idea of what the class is like, what you can expect, what the parents can expect from seeing their child in the class, what the child or adult can experience what the class is going to be like, and see if that is a fit for you. So you're not hugely monetarily obligated, if you will, initially.
Right.
So there is an opportunity to have some.
So is that something they can come to? They need to call a number or go to a website, register or something?
They can do all 3. Really, the best thing to do, I always encourage people, just come on by the dojon. There's classes usually starting at 4 almost every afternoon, Monday through Friday.
But what street is it Dojon Street?
Yes, it's Dojon Street. So Master Hong's Olympic Taekwondo, if I may, is located in Bowman Curve. So that's 600 Bowman Road. And it's in that strip mall where Comet Cleaners is, across from the Walgreens. Yeah. That's where our dojon is.
I've been in there.
By Fu Lin's restaurant.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, we know where you're at.
Drop in, just say, "Hi, I'm interested." They'll sign you up. They'll talk to you about it, get you a time and a date to come. You'll even get what we call a debak, which is our uniform, which I have here. So it's you actually, when you hit the mat in your introductory lesson, you're actually you're a practitioner. You start off with that mindset. You are a welcomed practitioner. Take the mat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for asking. I appreciate that.
I think I've been there. We went and saw somebody a couple of months ago, and I think that's where it was.
Well, good.
They were competing, and so we think they had a kind of a cage there, and the parents and stuff to kind of stay behind it.
Oh, no,
is that another one?
That's a different one.
It is?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
on the other side.
On the other side?
Yeah,
Okay.
we don't necessarily do cage fighting. We just
Well, it wasn't cage fighting. It was just kind of a cage to keep all the
I see
parents out of the big floor area that they were all working in. They were all doing all kinds of stuff in there.
Right.
So, but
is Taekwondo something that high schools or have some kind of a sport league involved?
Good question. I don't know the answer to that. I think it would be a wonderful opportunity for any martial art to have an extracurriculum activity for. I think it would be more than worthwhile. That's a great idea.
Well, why not?
Why not?
I mean, if you
what was that? I didn't hear.
Well, if you have track or football or something like that, why not have a Taekwondo club or karate club, whatever?
Great. I think it would be a super great idea.
To where they compete, against one another, and they compete, different schools, make it it's an actual sport.
Yeah, right. And that's what we do actually during our competitions is we're competing against other schools.
Okay.
So, in fact, I was supposed to go to a competition in Oklahoma in 2 weeks, but as you all know, the boot is
the boot.
Yeah.
The boot. But thank you for asking for that.
Let me ask you this. What about, because this is not only in Little Rock, but it's also seen in other states all around the nation. Is there a website that they could go to find their local organization or something? Could you share that?
Yes, I'm happy to share that. So as I mentioned, Taekwondo originated in Korea. It's their national martial art, like Kung Fu is to China.
Right.
And karate is to Japan, usually. So I'm under the kukkiwon system, Kukkiwon. And you could Google kukkiwon martial arts schools in your local area. And you could find those that teach under the kukkiwon curriculum.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So thank you for asking.
Cool.
And that's the one that focuses in on the Olympic style.
Yes, correct. They have both the Olympic style kukkiwon, obviously, which is where I participated in my championship, and then they have non-Olympic as well, because some practitioners that may not be something that they're focused on.
That's what I would be under.
But as long as it's kukkiwon based, that's the.
Mine would be more like Pokemon.
Yeah.
Well, that's Korean too.
I have so many thoughts going through my head right now.
Yeah. It's getting to the end.
They're
Larry.
going through the filter. They're going through the filter. Well, I really do want to press on parents and grandparents that this is something that I've seen, and I don't like to tell other people's story. And James, I hope you don't mind that I say this, but James, when he was younger, tried karate, and then he gave it up. I don't know, for various reasons, for different factors in his life, he just decided, I don't want to do it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. So he gave it up. Then he came back around years later and said, hey, I really would like to try that again. And so we encouraged him, give it another try. And when he tried it that second time, Kathy,
wonderful.
A spark hit and the fire lit, and he just does wonderful. I don't know what they call the outfits, and all, but he went from a white one to a blue one, which I think is something kind of special, if I'm not mistaken, and everything. And so he just fell in love with it. And it's a different, it has caused a different mindset from questioning yourself to focusing more on, I am a winner. I can do this.
I like that a lot. Yes.
See, and again, I go back to attitude so much. It's not the talent. You know, you could have the nerdiest little kid, grandkid around, just a nerd, okay, a little geeky kid, but he hasn't found that stride. And I say he, but I got to tell you, I think this is great that women are involved in this.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a lovely sport. I would like. What's the ratio? Can you give us an idea of how many men versus women?
You know, that's such a good question too. I would say it's almost half. I mean, believe it or not.
Oh, that's awesome.
It really is. In my school where I'm that's the only data point I have to consider would be my school. But equally represented, I think, male to female, all ages. Of course, you know, my age, they call me an ultra. That's my age group. That's our age group. We're ultras. I kind of like that. But then we have, you know, really young students, and they're great. I mean, they want to be in class. Like you said, you can see this mind shift. You can see it physically in the way they stand. You see it when you hear them when they say back to the master, "Yes, sir." I mean, it's just wonderful to see this evolution in young people who maybe have walked in timidly and now they've got a little bit of confidence, or vice versa. They came in really like, I got this, you know, I'm about to beat something up, give me something to kick.
Yeah.
And now they're more controlled. That's been, you know, tethered back a little bit and taught to be used appropriately.
Well, two key words that I think that you keep bringing up and we keep circling the wagons around is respect and humility.
Yes.
I really do. I'm very serious, because I don't know of anybody that's involved in martial arts that doesn't have a certain exalted level of humility. And that's weird for me to say it that way, but it's kind of like, dude, you could take someone's head off, and they're like, yeah, but that's not what I'm all about. And so it really is something that I appreciate, is that humility. You know, and probably I can kind of wrap this show up, but you may not even know this about me, but I taught Sunday school class for 28 years, and I taught a lot about, you know, success and about confidence and different things. There is a subject that is the most difficult subject that I've ever taught on, because I never could figure out what it really was. And that is self-esteem. Low self-esteem and high self-esteem. I have seen children that have the lowest self-esteem, and we talk about it, but we never can define it. And I have talked to some of the smartest pastors, teachers, counselors. People can say, well, I can define high self-esteem, and that's probably easier, even though we probably missed the mark. But when you start trying to define low self-esteem, it is something that as a communicator, I can study for hours and get up and try to communicate on it. And I got to tell you, I felt it really humbled me. It really harmed my self-esteem, because at the end of a 30-minute conversation or speech or whatever I was doing, I'm like, wow, I ran that wagon around. I circled it until, you know, it fell apart, but I never did make a lick of sense. Self-esteem is something that is so difficult to wrap your head around and get involved with and communicate with and try to teach. And yet I have to take a look at martial arts as being something that really, if you have a child that has low self-esteem, and I'm dating myself by using that phrase, that is something that I think this could really be something that if you got your grandchild or child into, that, or if you were raised and you say, wow, Larry, I have a low self-esteem. My mom and my dad never patted me on the back. They never did anything, I haven't turned out to be a serial killer, but, I still don't accomplish anything in life because of that. Maybe this is something. If you didn't get into it until, what'd you say, 2018 or something like that?
Right.
If you didn't get into it till then, and yet you're sitting here with a silver medal on the table, it's not too late for anybody, folks.
No, it's not.
You can jump in and do this. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Even if you got into it and if you only went to a certain degree of belt and you feel good about yourself, if it accomplished what you want, if it's not the career, people go into the military and serve a certain time and then they leave. I just had dinner with a gentleman that was a career military that just retired. And I forget what his rank was, but he's up pretty high. Just had dinner with him a week or two ago, Randy, in Dallas. And, he retired from it. Mm-hmm. Because once you get into it, you may want to be like Kathy or maybe James will be one day of getting that black belt and really excelling. Or it might be that you just get a couple of levels up and you go, wow, that was really good for me.
And, I want to just say, I appreciate your saying that because most people think, oh, like you said, well, she's a black belt, so she has these certain credentials. No, that just means that I showed up, I listened well, I practiced with whatever the instruction that was given to me. I was in class every time the doors were open. I focused. All I thought about was, I'm just going to do the best I can this class. Mm-hmm. The best I can this class. Was the end game going to Korea and getting a medal? Of course not. This is the icing on the cake.
Yeah, right.
But so I guess to your point, for me, even as at the degree level I am now, like I said earlier, I still feel like I'm a white belt every single time I take that mat. Because there's always something for me to learn, always something for me to hear, always something for me to respect, always something for me to gain if I just put my effort into it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'll close with this thought. In the words of Vince Lombardi, one of the great football coaches, he always told his players, it's not practice. It is perfect practice because perfect practice makes perfect. And I think that is trained in a lot of martial arts because like you just said, they may touch you on the shoulder and say, change this. Mm-hmm. And and we'll show you the video when you come into Bobby's. Carol has it on her phone. When James was doing the video, he did that video 4 different times. He looked at Grandma and said, stop. Delete it because I did not do that right. Mm-hmm. It looked perfect to us.
Yeah.
It looked good to me.
That's exactly right.
But in the words of Vince Lombardi, he was doing a perfect practice because perfect practice makes perfect. Hey, folks, I hope that this helps you out because I have had an absolute ball. I could do part 3 if I really wanted to, because we could talk about this a whole lot. And, if you get to go back to Korea and get another medal, we'll have you back on. We'll do whatever. Thank you for being on here because when I first approached her, Randy, she was like, I don't know. I'm like, hey. You're talking to the guy that controls the size of vegetable, portions and everything. I threatened her, funny. And I got her on here. So, folks, I'm sure you enjoyed this show. Come back and see us again. But this has been a ball having Kathy on the show with us.
My respect to you.
Thank you so much.
And
thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.